started taking meditation serious 2 years ago when I started going back to therapy. And for me, meditation is a tool to just ground me, in a sense, to help me reset. And what it has done for me is it has allowed me to filter through my thoughts, of letting me really know that just because you thinking this doesn't mean it's true, but also doesn't mean that it's not true. So two things can be true at the same time too.
Welcome to Vulnerability Muscle, the empowering podcast challenging norms and guiding you to find strength and power through vulnerability. I'm your host, Reggie D. Ford. In a world that often portrays vulnerability as a sign of weakness, I believe it is a source of tremendous strength and authenticity. Through insightful conversations and thought-provoking interviews, Vulnerability Muscle aims to redefine vulnerability and help listeners develop a new perspective on their own lives. Each episode of Vulnerability Muscle delves into a variety of topics such as mental health, social issues, and mindset shifts. We explore the power of vulnerability in healing, building resilience, and promoting personal growth, as well as fostering meaningful connections. This podcast provides practical tools and strategies to navigate life's challenges, overcome adversity, and create more inclusive and just environments for all people. Tamara Bates, what's up? How you doing?
What's going on, my brother? What's going on?
Not much, not much. What you got going on these days?
Doing me. And what I mean by doing me is doing what feels good to me and not what
Mm,
feels good or looks good to other people. So I'm doing me. So
okay,
that's what I got
okay.
going.
That's
And
what's up.
really
You
working.
working? Are you working this week?
No, I ain't working. I took a self-care week. A self-care
Let's
week
go.
for me because
The entire week.
the entire week. I mean, I work where you need to either use your hours or you lose them. So I was like, look, it's like that's what hours are for, to use them. And so I said, you know what? I got the remaining of these hours. I'm gonna go ahead and use them because, look, you gotta use them. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna use my hours and don't feel bad about using them.
Hey, don't feel bad about that. You gotta take care of yourself.
You do,
Gotcha.
definitely do, especially in
Yeah.
this society that we live in. And it's just like always, if you're not producing, it sometimes, or society try to make you feel that your worth is tied to what you produce. And so I said, you know what? I'm finna take these hours, and my body been feeling it too. Like my body actually needed this rest, and so
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I decided to follow my mind and take them hours.
Yes. And you still worthy, even though
Mm-hmm.
you're not producing right now. You could be at home
Right.
sitting down, still worthy. I love that. What is it
Yeah.
that you do for work?
So currently, I work with the Tennessee Democratic Party as our director of community engagement and civic outreach, and that's more so of just making sure that elected officials, one, are out not only in the community but the forward facing people understand like what Democrats are doing and who we are, and hosting events so that we can, one, get more people to run for office, so we can really have people in office that represent values that are democratic. So
Okay,
that's
that's
what I
what's
do.
up. How tell me the journey now. I want to know how you got to that place. Like, let's start from the beginning. Where you from
Hmm.
and what led to a passion in being in the political space?
Right. So originally, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised, and I would say the space into which like bridged me into politics, it wasn't in my adolescence or like while I was in grade school or little. While I was in Memphis, I would always, while you in church or out in the community, my mom and my grandmother, they were always going to like community events, or they were always in something that involved like speaking up for the people. However, it wasn't talked about in the household about this is, what we should be standing up for. It was just always seen, like it was always modeled. And it was like one of those things that's not talked about. However, you were exposed to it. And fast forward, when I moved to Little Rock to attend college, I went to Philander Smith University in Little Rock, Arkansas. there was a time where, as a student, I was able to like be curious on like what's going on around me. And there were a lot of, community elected officials that were always on campus because, of course, you're in the inner city in the middle of downtown Little Rock. And so, of course, you have elected community leaders. There was always something on campus. But also, too, I made myself available, just to get to know people and asking questions and being a curious kid. And one day, it was this guy, actually, I met his wife before I met him. And I would see him around, but I didn't know who he was. But I met his wife because his wife at the time, she was a student at Philander. And I just happened to run into her one day. And she said, I've been watching you around campus. How would you like to come and meet, my husband? He's an elected official, and he would like to, get more young people involved in the work that, like elected official work as well. And so fast forward, I end up meeting him. However, he wanted me to go knock some doors on a Saturday, and usually, on a Saturday morning, it's like, nah, that's nah, bro, I'm not doing it. But I thought about it. I was like, you know what? At least I'm gonna get a free meal. As a college student, you also
Yeah. Oh
put that
yeah.
into play because I'm a
If
miss
it's
the like
free,
the
it's for
calf.
me.
Yeah, I'm a miss
Hmm.
the calf because if I get up about like at that time 8 o'clock to probably about noon, bro, I'm gonna been to miss my calf time. So like, if they had to been in the negotiations, like, all right, you got to get me food. But that day, that day really opened up my eyes into what public service and politics and overall community activism looked like, because we went from barbershops to churches to like chicken shacks. Like we went everywhere. We was like on a little mini tour with him. And so from that day, we like had like this created this relationship. And then there were some more young people who we all got together and formed this group called Rock Air Vote, like just because of his leadership. And so that's pretty much was my introduction into like the work that I'm doing now, because it's just like once you did that, like you were always into something. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
That's amazing. Like, I think when I was in college, I was so
Hmm.
far from being interested in politics because I felt like it wasn't applicable to me. Like, I felt
Right.
like nothing I could do at that age, nothing I could say would make a difference.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until like probably fresh out of college I started getting into, I guess, Obama was running for president the first time I was able to vote. For
Right.
he was running for a second term. And so like I
Yeah, me
voted
too.
and that was something I was excited about. But other than that, I was just like, what are these people going to do for me? And I definitely didn't have a pulse on local elections, which
Hmm.
are even more critical. Can you speak to that?
Right. So I always share that local elections is the heartbeat, is the pulse of the convening of the state in the city in which, well, no, the city in which you reside in, because
Mm,
local politics pretty much drives everything that, you know and engages us. Local politics, like your city mayor. Your city mayor is like the governor of the city, which is like the governor of the state, but he's the seat, like he's the chief executive officer for that city. Then you have your elected officials, like city council members. They are like your um, I put it in the sense of form of like your U.S. reps, but they're just on a city local level. Then you got your judges, who also plays a
mhm,
role into a either they are like the glue to making sure that everything that comes from the mayors to the city officials, also the school board,
mm,
is being ran in decent and in order. And so when we say that you don't have an opportunity again if you don't vote to vote for a judge, because sometimes judgmentships, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me, like 10 years. Like you, it's like a 10-year
A long time.
a long appointment. That's a long time for a
Yeah.
judge to be in a space. And when people don't get out and vote, you just keeping it in place. But also too, it goes back to civic education. We don't do a great job of educating people on why they should actually vote and get involved in, just like their civil rights and civic duties. So we have to do a
What are
better job
some
of it.
What are some good resources for that? Because I have a system that I use when
Mhm.
it comes time to vote, where I'll take the ballot,
Mhm.
and then I start searching people's names on Ballotpedia or even
Mhm.
social media, and just getting a
Right.
post for who they are.
Right.
I'll go to their website sometimes, but I feel like nobody's gonna paint the whole picture of who they
Mhm.
are on their own website. It's all gonna be good. But what are some good resources you think people can
Right.
turn to?
And when you look at as a whole, I will say the Equity Alliance here in well, it's a statewide organization. They do a great job of putting together like a report card, a booklet of people who are running for office and also incumbents. So they give you the history, it gives you the rundown, everything that you really need to know so that you can make the best informed decision for yourself. Also, I will say that Organized Tennessee, they do a great job of making sure that you can have the in the know of like what issues will be on ballots, so they can break it down so you can understand it. Like if a fifth grader needed to know it, they break it down
That's
in that range.
that's good.
Let's see who else comes to mind. Vanderbilt, they have this like during the elections, Vanderbilt does this, like they put out like data and information, but it usually comes around when the election is going on, because like they're giving like fresh insight and data. But it's usually like comes like from like the Vanderbilt political department. And I'm not sure if they have a website, but I will find out and I can share that with you, that you can even
Yeah.
share like with your audience and stuff.
Absolutely. All right. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think it's so important just to be informed and to know that your voice actually matters and
Mm-hmm.
to get out there and vote. And so I
Right.
like to talk about that. But you intrigue me on so
Mhm.
many other levels outside of
Mhm.
the work that you do. What how one, like your personality, your
Mhm.
authenticity, and how you show up, like
Right.
it's so beautiful. Where did you like, have you always possessed that where you just show up as who you are? Is like Tap, like you coming, and where the name Tap come from?
Yeah. So first, tap comes from me. I play the drums, and I play the drum set, played drumline while I was in college, and I've always just picked up drums. I was playing drums, been playing drums since I was about 5. You would go into my grandma's kitchen, take all her pots and pans out, and just have a whole little concert by myself. So that's where tap came from. And my cousin, he would always call me what did he say? Tamara Hill from Carryville, Tap Hill from Carryville, some shit. But I've just always kept that side of me, like, cause you know, Tap is that unapologetic person, like, just shit. You gonna get what you see. You
Yeah.
It is what it is. Either I
I
get in
love it.
trouble for it or you don't like it, but that's just gonna be my raw, authentic self. And so I always, from time to time, had to like pull from this strength, because it's like, where did where did fear come from for me? And I always just be trying to sit back and you know, figure it out, because fear had to been like it had to come from somewhere, but I always pull back to this strength, like, yo, Tap ain't scared of nothing. Like, and I'm not. Like, it's just I'm observant, but also I'm not gonna back down from anything either. So, that's how I show up, and it is like, hey, either you get with the get with the program, or shit, I'm not the person for you. So that's where tap come from.
I love it. I love it. So some of those fears, what are the fears that like Tap is fearless, but what are the fears
Hmm.
that Tamara senses?
Man, people pleasing. Like in the fear of like, if I don't do this gonna resort to this because I didn't say yes to this person, or I'm trying to navigate my way and you know survive. And I think too, survival is one of those coping, or not to say a coping, it's not coping, but fear and survival like also play a role into it too. And so it's just like when you don't have, where you got that scarcity mindset, it's just like you fearful. It's like, oh shit. Like I'm trying to, you know, not go off the edge. However, I don't have what I need to thrive. So it's just like I've found myself in places like compromising myself because I needed what I needed in that moment, because I was trying to get what I need. And
Yeah,
that's either
yeah,
career, that's relationships, that's, you know, in spaces of getting what I needed. Like I've compromised that. And that's like a fear thing. And so like, and I've been through it recently, and I was like, yo, I just gotta like chill out. Cause,
yeah.
I'm fear is the fear of losing somebody. However, it comes from two, you know, trying to go back to a place where it's like, where does this like come from? Like dig into the deep of the root. And so I was just like, you know what? I need to just sit with myself and like work on it, because, you
Right.
know, growing up, you're not scared of, not to say you're not scared of anything, but you have a better sense of like just doing what you feel free to do without being told no. And it's just like once you get to being told no over and over again, that starts to like
Mhm.
lessen you.
Yeah,
And so I was just like, you know what? Let me like really work through this, because too, it's just like it can be hard when you trying to work through something, but you already got it made up in your mind. This what it is.
yeah.
So
No, that's interesting. So, I think like what I hear is like fear of rejection of some sort,
yeah.
right? And like I sense that every day. I
Mhm.
swear I do. Like even in work and in personal life, like in work, I if I'm like trying to get a client or trying to land a speaking engagement or something like that, I'll
Mhm.
see that what came before it. Like if the call that I had before, the email that I had before was like a yes, it's like, all right, I feel a little bit more confident about going
Right.
into that next one. Whereas opposed to if and even if on a subconscious level I feel rejected somehow, either I didn't get the email back or it's like
Right.
a hold up, let me call you back. I had to reschedule. Like that's kind of subconscious, like, oh, I'm not a priority. And
Right.
so then it's like I don't even want to make that next call.
Mhm.
And that is an automatic no. It's like what Jordan said, like you miss all the shots that you don't take. And and so like, but I what I hear is like there's a conflict inside you because there's a fearless like I don't like if you not rocking with me, then that's I'm not for you, but
Mhm.
also a people pleaser. Where do you
Yeah.
think that comes from? Like where does the people pleaser part come from?
I will say it stems from my mom, because my mom always wanted to say yes to everything, even when she didn't have the strength to do it. Like it was always, I gotta do this, I gotta show up. And also that's from a perspective of you have to provide, it was always going, going, going. So being like a
Mhm.
a busybody, and I've, see that mirror dang, mirroring in me. I see that
Yeah.
mirroring in me. And it's just like, all right, I don't want to let nobody down, but also too, it's just like, well, motherfuckers let me down. So
Yeah.
I can let some people down. I mean, I can let you down. and not
Yeah,
feel
and it's
bad
not your
about it.
responsibility all the time.
No,
Yeah,
and so that is a place of, revitalization of my soul, of my being that I'm working on, because again, like me not going to work, I know I don't care if I let somebody down. Like, it's for me, because
right.
I need to be whole for myself so that I can pour into my work. Because hell, if I'm not whole, my work is gonna lack. And that's just dead
Yes,
on that. Like,
that is a myth.
it ain't no matter how we see it or say it, if you are not whole where you can, like, get up and send an email, or your mind is fresh, you're not gonna be good to nobody. Then your work is lacking. So then therefore you have another problem, because now your boss or your teammates are looking at you upside your head, like, what the hell are you doing? So
Mhm.
I think for me, taking this week off, it has been like what's what I'm trying to say, like a rejuvenation period,
Mm,
like to get back
yes.
and do what I need to do, so I can finish these next 3 weeks out. Right.
That that is a whole message right there. Like, if you're not taken care of, you're not whole, you can't show up for the
Mm-hmm.
people that you're trying to show up for. Like,
Yep.
I love that because I think so often we get into this mindset of like, go, 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 produce
Mm-hmm.
24/7, nonstop, and that's gonna provide for people. But like, where does that leave you? You're gonna be
Empty.
stretched thin, empty. Like, that's
Mad
not where
as
you need to be.
hell.
All that.
Like, mad, because you look at it as in the metaphor as a car. When
Yeah.
your car ain't got no gas, you can't go nowhere.
Can't go nowhere.
And
Yes.
even holistic, look at your car. If your car don't have an oil change, the
Yeah.
windshield fluid, it all plays a role into, like, us too. So it's just like you gotta do the regular self cares. Go get your nails and feet done, or get your massages, because that is gonna help you, like, be the best person that you need to be. And so I just like, all right, in order for me to show up for me, this is what I need to do. And so I was just like, you know
Mhm.
what, I'm gonna make time. And it's like, this where
Yes.
I landed. This where I landed.
Good. What have you done this week to care for you?
Oh, so started Monday, I slept all day. I slept just around the house. Tuesday, I ended up going to get some. Where did I go to get? Let me see. Where did I go to get something to eat? Cause I'm like Tuesday, I slept too. Majority of it, like most of the days, I just been on the couch sleeping, watching Raising Canaan, watching TV, catching up on series, or going out. Like, if I need to go do something like real quick, come back, but I come back and go to sleep. And yesterday, no, Tuesday I went to get a massage. That's was it. That was it. Yep, Tuesday I went to get a massage and came back to the house. Wednesday, yesterday, I went and did like a nail pampering and like foot massage and stuff. So did that. Today I'm gonna do the same thing. Sit on the couch, and probably I'm gonna probably go walk this trail. But yeah, I purchased some new running shoes so that I can, like, start preparing myself, to get ready for this 5K. And that's just pretty much it. And then today I'm just gonna do the same thing. Just, stay in the house and just, relax.
You taking care of yourself. Is that like you talked a couple times about mirroring what was modeled to you by your parents. Is
Mm-hmm.
that something that you saw growing up with people taking care of themselves, taking time off from work and just, nurturing their soul?
No. I've never really seen my dad take a day off and just pour into himself. Like, neither my mom either. Like, it's always been go, 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 go. And
What Where do you see how did that shift for you, or what made you decide that that was something important in your life?
well, for me, it got to the point where my inner self was being conflict. It was at a conflicting crossroad, and it was one of those moments of like clarity for me of sharing like, hey, you either need to like just rest so that you can like, show up for yourself when you in these spaces. Because when you like just running and going around, like you don't have a clear brain, you don't have a clear mind, a clear mindset to do what you need to do. And so it goes back again to really, in order for me to be the best self for me and to show up for myself and then the world, I need to like sit down and like take a break. And then looking at what I'm looking to do, like, just with projects, like, hell, you can't do anything if you're tired. And so that's pretty much where it stemmed from is I have things that I want to get done. And that quote they always said like, uh you have this assumption that God will give you a second chance to produce or to do what He have opened up, like, or created for you to do, but you keep putting it off. And so, who's to say that you're gonna have more time to do it if you keep putting it off? And so, for me, I was just like, all right, I'm helping everybody else, being there for everybody else, but not being there for me. And so it goes back to again to just always seeing my parents. They there for everybody, but in return, people weren't there for them. And so
Mm.
that's where I had to like realize it's like this mirroring, like, yo, I see where I get it from. And also too, I had to dig a little deeper. It's like, yo, why don't I like being at the house, or like what I'm like don't like being still? So I was just like, you know what? Let me sit with my thoughts. And really, when I do sit with my thoughts, I'm not scared of my thoughts. It's just the overwhelming load of thoughts that I have running in my head and what gives me anxiety. So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
powerful right there. And
Yeah.
you just reminded me of when we met.
Mm-hmm.
We met at the POC Sangha
Yeah.
meditation, and that retreat was amazing. I've done a couple of them since.
Right.
How long you been meditating, and what has that done for your life?
So I for real, like started taking meditation serious 2 years ago, when I started going back to therapy. And for me, meditation is a tool to just ground me, in a sense, to help me reset. And what it has done for me is it has allowed me to filter through my thoughts, of letting me really like know that like, yo, just because you thinking this doesn't mean it's true, but also
Mm,
doesn't mean that it's not true. So two things can be true at the same time too. However, it's like how I handle what I'm thinking. And so meditation gives me an opportunity really to rest my mind and ground my mind and really to get myself back together, because I feel that, you know, again, there's always something or something constantly going on. So I really just started that meditation practice because I felt that there was something like, no matter what, I can always, turn on some meditation music and just take 5 minutes. Like that's something that you can do wherever you are and just sit with yourself. And that has helped me in a space of like just being with myself. And so like, and I'm not no expert, but it just helps me continue to like ground myself. So
mm. Yeah. I love that because
yeah.
I mean, meditation is so healing for me, especially when I'm in the chaos of everything that's going on. I think
Right.
the times where I feel most stressed out, most anxious is when I'm like, I definitely need to sit back and meditate for a minute. Even if it's like 1 minute or 3 minutes or
Right.
whatever, I need some time for me.
Yeah.
That's good. And like you said, I love what you said about like a thought doesn't have to be true and it
Mhm.
also doesn't have to be false. Both can exist, neither can exist, and like
Mhm.
that's real. I
Right.
think that was one of the greatest realizations I came to about a year ago in this
Mhm.
I went to on-site.
Mhm.
Shout out to on-site workshops and retreats. They host like trauma retreats,
Mhm.
and we did this exercise where I volunteered to like sit at this chair, and
Mhm.
the facilitator was sitting across from me, and I was looking at the wall behind her, and it was white, and she was looking at the wall behind me, and it was on the stage, and it was black. And
Right.
so we like told our truths, right? The wall behind the wall is white, is what
Mhm.
I said. She's like, no, the wall is black. And I'm like, no, the wall is white. And it's just like this back and forth, but
Yeah.
it stressed the point, like from our perspectives, we both were telling the truth, our
Right.
truths. But if we don't look at somebody else's perspective, then we'll never be able to understand that yes, the wall can be black and white. And
Right.
so that is like that exercise is so powerful for me because then, you know, applying that to everyday life of like, I may feel this way about a certain topic, but somebody
Right.
else feels the complete opposite. How do we come to a common ground? Well, we got to talk. We got to open up.
Right.
Um, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
That's true because again, like I'm, being transparent, fully transparent. I feel that relationships that I've been in have always been a reflection of my truth of what I know, or not to say the truth. It has been a reflection of this is what I've been exposed to. This is what I know. Doesn't make that I'm a bad person or it's a bad thing. However, when you couple up with someone, they have their truth as well. But it's just like like it's like this is my truth, this is my truth, but we both not seeing each other like in that space, and it like brings it to like a this it brings it to like this ugly head because it's just like, all right, this is how I feel, this is what I know. However, you can't tell me what I'm feeling is not valid or what I know is not valid because you haven't walked in my shoes. And I can't tell you what is not valid or what is not real or what is not in your space because you've, experienced it. And so for me, I think really understanding, like you said, you know, our feelings and things that we have experienced in our lifetime is valid and not to shun anyone just because they haven't experienced what you've experienced in the time or what you know that what you have experienced is really a space of like coming into yourself and maturing because we just all, and I'll speak for me, like we learn in life but as we go, like
Mhm.
it's not one of those things that life come with a blueprint and a manual. Who's to say what what you've been exposed to, like that's your truth or it can, you know, that's what you know. However, when you know something, it's also not for you to like push that onto a person because of like they don't know it or they don't see it how you see it. So that's one thing I've been struggling with, is really like trying to puzzle, you know, different things together of like, all right, well, you see this way, or you see verbal abuse this way, and I don't do verbal abuse. So like, why is that coming out like that? And so just really just trying to not to push anybody into like understanding like the way I think, but also like letting them see it from my view because that's triggering as hell if somebody just automatically cuts you out. And that goes back to when my parents or my mom, like my dad, I would say he has never like cursed at me like in a verbal, like a demeaning way. However, my mom, like you'll be everything in the book, like
Yeah.
everything. And so
Mhm.
when I find myself or be in a space with a person that does that, that triggers me. And it's like, yo, you acting like my mama now. You not my mom, but this is shit
Mm.
that my mom does, like when she gets in, can't control her emotions. And so that goes back to, again, understanding like other people perspective. Why do you curse at everything? Like, what is that? And so the
Yeah.
perspectives of, not to saying it's not true for you. However, can we at least try it a different way and talk to each other calmer? So,
Mm, mm.
so
I love
yeah.
that. I love the reflectiveness of like you being able to understand where that hurt comes from for you, and like, okay, I've seen this before. I've seen this. I've experienced this, and this is what it's
Mm-hmm.
bringing up for me, and being able to communicate that. That was
Right.
one of the things that, like when I first, well, I met you and thought
Mm-hmm.
you were dope, and then I saw you on that panel at the coffee shop. And I was like, damn, I gotta like, I didn't
Yeah.
even have a podcast ready or up or nothing, but I was like, I want to talk to her. And then after that, we started following each other on social
Yeah.
media and everything. And I guess like from my vulnerability, you expressed something to me via text, and I was just like so impressed that you had that level of awareness and that you
Mm-hmm.
had the courage to reach out about that.
Right.
Do you want to share what came up around that?
Yeah. Matter of fact, let me go back to what I said too. Well, I was reading your book, and um you shared about, well, it came up in the chapter about talking about, like, well, just in general, like your childhood trauma and like the relationship that you had with your mom, and like how the relationship that you have with your mom, that's gonna like affect your relationships personally, romantically, and overall, like just how you deal with people. And so for what came up around that for me was, you created that space in the book where I could be vulnerable, like somebody get it, somebody understand like where I'm coming from or what, I'm feeling. Like sometimes I may not be able to verbally like say or share how I'm feeling, but in that book, you pretty much like created like this space where I can just go, like the imagery where I could see myself in that space as well. And so when I text you, I was like, yo, that's was been my experience, really not being able to, be open with my mom about like just basic things because, she has her things that she dealing with that she haven't dealt with. So she don't know how to be there for her daughter who is experiencing life as well. And then you a child, so we have emotions that we cannot pinpoint, that we don't know how to share it or verbally say it. So I just started to suppress my thoughts, suppress my feelings, and suppress how I felt. And, you know, eventually it started to come out in different ways. Some ways were good, some ways were bad. And just being able to really like be vulnerable with myself, like, all right, you need to like talk to somebody who can help you with this and really like share, like be honest and just be real, because often to like sometimes I've been in a place where I felt shame of sharing where I am, because like it was always been told like you never let nobody like see you sweat, or you never let nobody uh let you or share, never let nobody see you sweat, or never let nobody know like how you feeling. But that's like a part of suppressing. And so your book just been able to like help me really like get through my emotions and like write about it and understand like whatever you don't like share or like talk about, like it's gonna come up some way, it's gonna come out either bad or it's gonna be a good thing. And so, you know, being open and like communicating, like communication, like I feel like professionally, like with people, I'm a great communicator. However, when it get to relationships, like it's something is, and I'm like working through this too, because it's just like, where does this continue to come up? Like, am I scared to like just really share my vulnerability? And I feel like when I do share my vulnerability, I don't want to share it and then it be used against me as a bullet to like hurt me. You know what I'm saying? And like I've experienced that, like 2 to 3 times in my past relationships, and I feel like this time around, I was like, I'm just gonna chill out on relationships, and what I mean, like, really, like, work with myself before I jump into another relationship, because I've also noticed those patterns, like the communication of me not sharing something, it turns into a whole nother, like, argument that, didn't have to be. But also too, the vulnerability part, like, I'll give you an example. There was a situation that I had, and I just didn't feel comfortable with sharing, like, where I was financially, where I was just overall. So I just kept it to myself. But it came out, and the situation went from 0 to 100 real quick, because it was just like, now you accusing me of talking to someone else, all because I didn't open up to you about where I was financially. But I also didn't feel comfortable, like, sharing where I was, because that goes back to, like, the fear of rejection. All right, so, like, you don't got your shit together. Now I don't want to talk to you, type deal. But that wasn't the case. I mean, people fall on hard times, but also too, I've just always been this person that, like, never really share about, like, where I'm, like, where what I'm, like, how I'm going through my, like, my stripes at the time. And then I was just, cause never felt comfortable. But then it's just like, all right, I'm gonna have to work through this, because, like, being vulnerable, like, regardless of, like, how people see me, like, that's gonna be, like, with them and not me. And so, like, that vulnerability space, like, really hits home for me, because, while I was little, it was always, don't share too much. Don't share of who you are, because that can be used as a weapon to destroy you. And so I just started, like, sharing, like, bits and pieces about me. But then too, it's like sometimes I go back into, like, this retreat where I just, like, don't say nothing unless I feel comfortable. And so that's been a thing that I'm constantly working on, because, I know that at the end of the day, I'm not wrong for thinking the way I think. However, I know that I have to work through my emotions so that my emotions don't take over me, and, just continue to, like, be a wreck of a person. And what I mean be a wreck of a person
Mhm.
is just not sticking up and standing up for myself when something comes up to me, like, in the case in point, in a relationship, like, you know you can't tell me about, my feelings, or why they're not valid to you, but they're valid to me. And so just really, like, understanding, like, when I see patterns, like, calling those patterns out, and why are these patterns mirroring me again. So, and that takes a lot of work,
Mhm.
because it be so deep, and, like, you was like, sheesh. So,
Yeah, it takes a ton of work, but it sounds
mm-hmm.
like you've been doing the work. It sounds
Yeah.
like you the self-reflectiveness that you possess is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. You brought up a couple things, and I think people resonate with. One was being that different person professionally and at work versus how you show up in relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think I see that in my own life of just like I can the communication style, the way that I handle conflict or whatever it may be professionally is totally different than how I've in the past handled relationships. And so um I think that that's huge. And what you said about vulnerability, like being sometimes it's a fear of being vulnerable with people
Yeah.
because it could be used as a bullet against you.
Right.
And that is like totally valid because I think if you have experienced that, then it makes sense that that's the way you
Mm-hmm.
feel about it. And it doesn't get comfortable or safe to be vulnerable until you're around a community of people or a person to
Yeah.
where when you are vulnerable, they are loving, accepting, and validating of what you've just shared with them. And
Right.
so you brought up therapy. Is therapy a recent thing for you, or is that something that you've done your entire life? And how did you get comfortable around that?
Mm. So I started therapy back in what's this 2019. I started therapy in 2019. It was on and off, and for me, it was one of those things. Cause one, I'm let you in my business, so I dated a therapist, and that's a whole nother thing.
Okay.
Like dating a therapist, shit. Like they bring like dating a therapist is like, all right, okay, everything that you do is being brought to light. So it's like, all right, god damn, that was rough because in a sense, it was always she was on. She was always like in therapy mode, not like partner mode.
Yeah.
And one of those things, she was like, she would, share things with me about myself. She was like, you need to, she was like, I see this. She was like, I see it. She was like, it's your trauma is coming out. And so I was like, all right,
Mhm.
let me get in therapy because I need to unpack, what she say she see in me so that I can understand myself better so I can show up. And it's just like it went downhill. Like it was just like more so of like you trying to change someone instead of seeing the progress in the person. And so like I really got turned off about therapy because I feel like I went to therapy for her and try to fix me so that I could be with her instead of like going to therapy for me so that I could fix me and be whole for myself. And so that was like one of those things that, like when your mama said you don't pay for shit, you not going to really take it in. And so that was one of those moments because it was like I was going for her because I wanted that relationship to work. And it just like it went downhill real quick. And so I paused on therapy for probably like another 6 months because I started going like for like let me see. I started I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how long I was going. I just know it was to the point like I went and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stop because it ain't working or it's not feeding me how I needed to feed me because every time I went into therapy, it was more so about like how can I save this relationship versus like getting to really like unpack me and unpack my traumas and stuff. So fast forward, I picked back up therapy and like I've been, consistently going to therapy and making sure that I can really like figure out like new tools to navigate like my emotions and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and therapy
That's
has really been it's been life changing for me because a lot of things like even when there are different situation that arises like even some things that I may have like stressed myself out over it was like it ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yes, yes. You learn a
Yeah,
lot of that in therapy. That
you
is not
do.
my issue right
That
there.
is not my
Yeah.
issue because
Yes.
that ain't got nothing to do with me. That got something to do with you. And I always tell people, oftentimes we in therapy for the people that don't want to go to therapy in our lives. That's either your coworkers, your family members, and really getting to the nitty gritty of why people do the shit that they do, and why does it trigger you. And so I said, nah, I'm gonna go to therapy so that I can understand me and
Yes.
understand how I can show up for my relationships. One with myself, and then two,
Yes.
what I've said too. Like when I go back to like this relationship thing, that's been you know, uh, it's been a thorn in my side because I feel that I give so much in the relationships. And what I mean so much is that I'm willing to work through stuff, but the other counterpart, like they just want to, walk away or run away. So then too, it goes back, shit, are they in therapy? Like, are they working through their stuff? Or is it
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
you going through the motions and you don't want to deal with your shit. And I think too, you can recognize a person who's actually aware of what they have going on in their life versus like a person who's trying to mesh up with somebody who just like don't want to work through nothing and like just like shoot the bullets and shoot the shit. And so I was like, yeah, this go around, like let me just focus on me and how I will, what I will not allow this go around and what is
Yes,
going to
those
be,
non-negotiables.
yeah, what's non-negotiable, because at the end of the day, like we all have feelings and we all, are human beings and we got things that, you know, makes us up. But it's just like, if this ain't what you bring to the table, like you said, my non-negotiables, I'm not rocking with it. I'm not changing it just because you cute, just because you got great conversation. Hell no, you can stay outside.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Oh man, you brought up something that I want to like address and like
Mm-hmm.
to the therapists out there. Like if you're in personal relationships, you got to take that therapist hat off sometimes. Like that is so
Yes.
off
Take
putting
that shit
like to
off.
be diagnosed as you having a conversation with somebody that you're trying to build a relationship with. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that came up in my relationship. So my wife is a doctor. She's a
Mm-hmm.
pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
And like early on in our relationship, it'd be like it wouldn't be like well, I guess some of the stuff was mental health related, but it was a lot of physical health related stuff. And so like you see an old person in my family and they walk a little da da da, that person got diabetes, that person got hypertension. Like, I don't need you diagnosing no family members at Thanksgiving. Like,
Right.
that's cool. Leave that at home. Like, we just chilling. And so, yeah, it's off putting when you start to bring the professional hat home. And like you said, like you can't force nobody into therapy or into wanting to improve. They have to want that themselves. And
Right.
like you said, like you felt like you were going to therapy for somebody else and it didn't stick. But when you start
Mm-hmm.
showing up for you, that's when the real change happens. So
Right.
I'm proud of you.
Thank
I'm
you,
real
my
proud of
brother.
you.
I'm proud
For
of me
real.
too, because that's consistent too. Like the most consistent I've been in just going to therapy, like making sure that I can, you know, unpack my shit, understand like why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Or, why do I have a hard time like speaking up for myself? And when I'm saying speaking up for myself, like I'm not like, again, it goes back to like I'm gonna show up and be my authentic self, but also too, I'm not just gonna push the badger, like push it unless I have to. But now it's just like, all right, you get what you don't get because you're not asking for it or like putting your foot down. So I was just like, all right, let me just start practicing it more, and it's gonna come where it's comfortable, like that muscle being built, like just like you were saying, your
Mhm.
vulnerability muscle, like being able
Yes.
to really like do it and not think about it. And it becomes innate. So
And you start to recognize that community of people that is safe to be vulnerable with, who is not
mm-hmm.
safe to be vulnerable with, and you
Right.
start attracting more people. Like you start attracting people who talk about therapy, who talk about meditation, who talk about things like that. And it starts to get weird and like pushes the people who don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be in that space away. And so you
Right.
create that community. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Like what has vulnerability done for you in your life? If you could like write a paragraph about what vulnerability has done for you.
mm. I will say vulnerability has exposed to me that I don't have to have it all together. Like
That's real.
I can be at my lowest and still be worthy, and be at my highest and still be worthy.
Yes.
And being vulnerable is really a strength. Again, being vulnerable is a strength because I feel like if you can't be vulnerable, and it means like you're just holding on and masking, and it's just like how long are you gonna mask until you can't mask no more? And vulnerability has helped me really to like grow in areas of my life and just saying like, hey, taking myself off a timetable. Like I got to be here by this certain age, or I got to have this amount of money in my bank account. Like, truth be told, look, I'm just grateful that I'm able to do the work that I enjoy doing, making sure that I have the tools and the essentials that I need to produce. But also, it goes back to understanding that, like, vulnerability for me, it gives me that strength to, like, keep on moving each day, because we are
Mm-hmm.
all here really passing through this realm and doing the best that we can do. So if it's something that I don't know, I've been in a space where I've beat in my, like, hey, I didn't know that, like, you down on yourself. But now it's just like, all right, you don't know that because you wasn't exposed to that. So why are you beating yourself up? And so
Right.
vulnerability has really, like, been in that space for me. It's like, well, shit, that's why I got Google. That's why you got these tools around you to research stuff. And so just really, like, understanding that I'm okay. Like, I'm not missing out what's meant for me. Like, what's for me is gonna find me, and it's going to, like, be
Yes.
good to me and be good for me.
I
So
love
yeah.
that. I love that so much. I love that
Yeah.
so much. And I think like vulnerability, the opposite of vulnerability to me is shame. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you start to suppress and internalize and bottle all the stuff up that you're not sharing with people, it's
Right.
rooted in shame a lot of
Right.
times.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like you didn't feel a certain way, or you didn't feel comfortable sharing your financial situation or certain things about your life with your partner, like that
Right.
that is rooted in shame. Because and it doesn't matter how much, what dollar amount you're talking about, because I've met
Mm-hmm.
people with millions who still have shame around that and won't share how how their financial situation is. And so it's all about how we internalize whatever we're experiencing. But the
Mm-hmm.
strength of being, the courage to say, this is my life. I know it's
Right.
not perfect, but nobody's life is perfect, is so powerful. And so I
Right.
love that you see the strength in vulnerability.
Right.
I got a quick segment before we wrap up, and it's just
Okay.
a rapid response.
Okay.
And the first thing that come to your mind, if you want to elaborate, feel free to do so. But here we go.
All right.
What comes to mind when you hear the word vulnerability?
Strength.
Let's go. If you could have a conversation with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
I would have a conversation with, uh, Kobe Bryant. And the reason why so many people call Kobe Bryant, or have called or coined him, like, this arrogant person. But it's also like asking him, like, what was his, pathway to becoming the person he had, well, to becoming the person that he became. And how did he, get through all the self negative talk, or get through, like, the naysayers, and just understanding, like, what kept him going. So, Kobe Bryant.
I love that. I think that's the second or third time Kobe's come up.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Ooh, my favorite childhood memory, I will say, my mom dropped me off at my granddad's house, and all the kids, they went to the swimming pool, but I had just got my hair done. And so my mom, she was like, don't go get in that swimming pool, or she was like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And all my cousins, they were going to the pool. So shit, I went over there and somebody pushed me in the pool. I was like, dang, well, I'm gonna get a whooping, so I might as well enjoy myself at the pool. And I had a good time. I just seen my aunt out of the corner of my eye. She was like, "Look at her over there jumping in that pool," and I just look. I just started jumping more. So that was like a cool time, because it was just like I still got a whooping, but it was a worth it whooping.
Worth it whooping.
It
I
was a
like
worth it
that.
whooping.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. What is a book or movie that everyone should read or watch?
I would say Crooklyn. It's a movie that
Ooh, what
everybody
is
should
that?
watch. Spike Lee. It's a Spike Lee joint,
Oh, yeah.
and
Okay. Okay.
it reminds me of my childhood, but also it just reminds me of the community that back in the day we all like, like leaned on each other. We didn't know each other, but it was like kids were able to be kids and play outside and just have a good time, and adults, did adult things, and children, stayed out of the way. But when you got exposed to some stuff, you got exposed. So I enjoy Crooklyn because Crooklyn also depicts like similarly of like how I grew up and stuff. So
Okay. That's what's
yeah.
up. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, Spike Lee. It's on
What is one thing?
Paramount too. Paramount, and
Okay.
yeah, you can watch it on Paramount or Stars.
Okay. Okay. Bet. What is one thing you do to relax when you're feeling stressed?
Go to sleep.
Yes.
Sleep.
Hey, sleep
Sleep.
is so crucial.
Man,
Yes.
sleep.
It
I be
sounds like you've been
sleep.
getting some good sleep this
I
week.
have. I'm gonna take me another nap too once I get done. I
Good.
just
I
been
love
sleep because I look at it like this, man. 31 years, my body has just been pumping, going, and like when you do sleep, like you sleep for like however many hours that you get to sleep. But oftentimes too, we don't give our body that rest that we need. So whenever I get a
Mhm.
chance, I'm gonna sleep anywhere. I'm gonna take me a nap, a power nap or
Yes.
something. I'm gonna sleep.
Good, good. I remember that from meditation. You knocked out. I was like, "Oh, she
Man,
over there snoring a little bit."
sleep. Hey, I'm gonna get me some sleep. I tell people like, look, them naps when we were little, they weren't kid. Like we was trying to get up, but now it's like, yeah, I
Yes.
need me a nap. Take you a
I
nap.
need that back. I
Mm-hmm.
need that back, yeah.
Yep, yep.
Tap, how can people get in touch with you? How can they contact you? Drop some your
Yeah.
socials, email, whatever you wanna drop.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tap the Connector. That's pretty much the only one that I'm really, really active on. Where people can really like get to see inside of me. And I always tell people now, what you see on Instagram is really not everything, because I think too, folks, they're just like, well, you post this on Instagram. It's like, but that's still like not all the layers to me. I just want to
Yeah,
put that out there because someone told me the other day, they was like, man, you be with everybody. You be with the vice president. You be with this. I was like, but you don't know like what it took me to get to where I am to do that work, or just to be with some of these people. And sometimes some people like to capture their
true.
moments and put it out there. And so, I just want to let you know, like, it ain't all what you see, but it's still me. Like, that's a layer of me. That's not all of me. Like, just because I look like it don't mean that I'm sitting on top of the world today on Instagram. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram.
I appreciate that so much because I feel the same way. I feel like
Yeah.
everybody's Instagram, whether you claim to be like a full like it's your whole lifestyle or not, it's
Yeah.
not.
It's
It's
not.
stuff that you deal with that is not making that screen, and so
Man,
I
what?
appreciate that a lot.
Shit, probably just got through crying before you posted a picture. Shit.
Right. Facts. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I got a question though. It brought
Mm-hmm.
up some who is your most favorite person you done met that the world may know?
Ooh. I would say the favorite person is President Barack Obama. Is he just so
That's dope.
chill, laid back? He
Yeah.
tell you like it is. He really, say what he got to say. Now that he's out of office, he really be talking, cash money shit. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
really
That's what's up.
someone that I think that we all can look up to. And, even not being in politics, but just a model, like this is someone that you can not to inspire to be like, but just inspire to like, you know, be of and be amongst like people like him. So,
Mm. Wow.
so
Wow.
yeah.
Well, Tap, I appreciate you with all the things you could be doing and all the places you could be. I appreciate you for embracing vulnerability with
All
me.
right, my brother. Well, I thank you so much for inviting me to this. And hey, it's only up from here.
Thank you for joining us for another powerful episode of Vulnerability Muscle. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that resonate with you. If you're enjoying this journey of self discovery and empowerment, there are a few ways you can support the podcast. First, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you've been moved by our conversations and the mission of redefining vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us, but also helps others discover the podcast. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. And don't forget to spread the word. Follow us on Instagram at Vulnerability Muscle for updates, and you can connect with me personally at Reggie D. Ford on all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and upcoming episodes. And remember, embracing vulnerability is strength. Thanks for being a part of the journey. Until next time, stay empowered, stay vulnerable, and keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.